I studied one of the most comprehensive books on coffee there is. The Science of Quality, Espresso Coffee, by Illy. So you might have seen Illy all around the superstores, all around the shops. So it's a very credible store. Illy, by the way, you know what I'm talking about? I'll put a little image here. Illy Coffee. I'm not sure if they're big in the US or Canada, but I know they're big here. Anyway, coffee is one of them. So many people slate it, have bad things to say about it. Coffee is bad, coffee is unhealthy, coffee is this, coffee is that. But we have to consider that coffee alone isn't bad. Caffeine alone isn't bad. Where do we get these ideas from that one thing makes us unhealthy, or one thing is bad, or one thing is good? On the inversely, one thing doesn't make anything good, anything bad. There's no such thing as an unhealthy food. There's not really a thing as an unhealthy meal. There are only unhealthy, let's say, diets or unhealthy things. Health is the cumulative effect of the long-term dietary choices we make over time, the long-term choices we make over time. So saying one thing is healthy or unhealthy or good or bad is ridiculous, because it isn't. Look at the whole picture. We have to see the whole puzzle, so to speak. The puzzle is a big thing, and all the pieces will work together to complete the puzzle. But yet we often try and isolate each piece and say, yep, this piece is bad, this piece is good. Throw that piece out. But what we're really not seeing is the bigger picture, the total aspect of our health. So coffee is not bad. Caffeine isn't bad. Maybe how you treat the caffeine, maybe how you have coffee, maybe you have 10 cups a day. That's going to borderline too much. But you can have anything of too much. You can have too much water. You can have too much broccoli. You can have too much chocolate. Or can you? So it really bugs me that we say coffee is bad, coffee is unhealthy, caffeine is bad, caffeine is unhealthy. It's ridiculous. Remember, not one thing makes something unhealthy, or not one thing makes something healthy or good or bad. So that's the first point I want to make. And it makes sense, right? Just because you have one cup of coffee, straight away you're a bad person. Straight away that's bad for you. Incorrect. If you have one, like even 5, you know what, I'm going to say it, 5 cups of coffee in the morning, but the rest of your whole health is perfect. You sleep like a dream. You have low stress levels. You have a beautiful family. You have a high-paying job. You eat the best source food possible. Is that coffee that detrimental now? You could argue that it's not going to be the best for your energy levels later in the day. Potentially could affect how deep your sleep is. But you're seeing what I'm doing here. I'm painting the whole picture. If you just exclude all of the health practices that this guy has, let's call him Andre, and you just said, Andre drinks 5 cups of coffee, straight away everyone's like, unhealthy, that is bad. But really, what about the other pieces? We really have to look outside of just that one piece that caffeine is bad. It's ridiculous. Not one thing is bad, not one thing is unhealthy. But caffeine in a nutshell is the one that gets the bad rap. And caffeine alone is the thing that gives us the energy. But weirdly, caffeine doesn't actually give us energy. It's kind of a fake energy, or it's a neural energy. When we ingest a cup of coffee within the first 20 minutes, I think, the caffeine attaches to adenosine. Adenosine is what is released throughout the day. So we'll have a low load of adenosine in the morning. And then as we gradually approach the evening, adenosine increases throughout the day. Adenosine is what signals to the brain you are getting tired, and has a communicative effect with melatonin. So adenosine is releasing throughout the day slowly. What caffeine does is it attaches onto an adenosine receptor. And when it attaches on, I like to call it, it's like giving it a big hug. When it attaches on, that's what mutes the tiredness response. So it's not necessarily us getting energy, because caffeine has no calories. Caffeine attaches to the adenosine, which mutes the effects of tiredness and drowsiness and fatigue and tiredness. I just said tiredness twice. It's so good I had to say it twice. So when we have a nice cup of coffee in the morning, caffeine attaches onto those receptors, mutes the tiredness, we get a nice little buzz. It actually has a communicative effect and a relationship is probably the better word with dopamine and the adrenals. So you get that nice, I like to call it a jacked up feeling. So there is potential harmful effects. Let's say you're having, let's be hyperbole about this, 20 cups of coffee a day. And if you're constantly trying to have a cup of coffee, attaching to the adenosine, and then eventually the caffeine detaches from the adenosine, so the tiredness increases, then you have another cup of coffee. It's just a ripple effect of harmful effects later down the road. You're not going to get a deep sleep. Adenosine will always be building up. It's going to affect your appetite. It could have a huge effect on your gastrointestinal tract because coffee, I think, is about 66% more disruptive or irritable, let's say, I think is the better word, to the gut wall. 66% more than decaf and water. So if you're having a lot of caffeine, especially on an empty stomach, it could be really disrupting that gut lining, that gut wall. So a good strategy for this in the morning, I like to have a banana before I have a coffee, and then I will have my cup of coffee. A lot of experts say to actually delay your caffeine intake about 90 minutes after awakening to let the adenosine do its job properly, and then you can have your caffeine. And then later down the road in around 2 to 3 p.m., you know, that afternoon slump, if we delay the timing of caffeine, we don't necessarily get that slump later in the day. I'm yet to try it because I like to have my coffee straight away. Then another harmful effect could be the exacerbation of stress, anxiety, worry, nervousness, that jittery feeling that coffee will give you. Usually I've found, working with many clients, many patients, that those symptoms of stress, anxiety, worry are kind of already there, and then coffee will tip it over the edge, so to speak. It will tip the seesaw too far because coffee has a direct impact on our HPA axis. That's the hypothalamic, pituitary, and adrenal axis. And this is what releases that adrenaline, and that's where we get that nice buzz. Remember, adrenaline and dopamine are very closely linked with coffee, which is why you get that nice buzz feeling. Along with the muting of the adenosine, that's where you get that everything feels nice and alert. And obviously with the HPA axis, that's where stress, anxiety, fear, anger, that's where they all are coming from as well. When we are releasing those heavy emotions, the HPA axis is very much lit on or very much on. Then if you're having more coffee, stimulants, things that are jacking you up more, naturally that's going to increase that feeling of stress, anxiety, worry, loneliness, nervousness, and jitteriness. So a good strategy for that is, I wouldn't necessarily say cut out coffee completely, just reduce it. Take away a few cups, or potentially don't have a cup of coffee or have caffeine for a couple of days. Let your HPA axis, let your stress, your anxiety, whatever is bothering you, come back down to base level. Let your seesaw balance out. Give it 1 or 2 days, potentially a few days, maybe a week. It's not the end of the world. Short term is fine. Long term, I don't know if I could do. And just balance out your body. So yeah, there's solutions to every single, let's say, problem. So when people say coffee is bad for you, they never give you a solution. They just say how bad it is or how detrimental it is to your health. But going back to what I was saying, no one sees the bigger picture. And then they never really offer you a solution. We're living in a world where it's hustle and bustle, competitive, getting up early, having to get to work, potentially working late nights, late shifts, night shifts. Coffee, in my personal opinion, is probably one of the best things that has happened for productivity and getting things done and keeping ourselves awake at night so we can do our night shift to feed our family. People forgetting about all these things. And I think we have to take into account how we live these days. So offer a solution. Don't just say something is bad and then see you later. That's not pragmatic. That's not practical. Give people solutions. Give people options. Okay, well, if it's so bad, what do I do? Instead of saying it's so bad for my health. So if that was me and I was saying that coffee is bad for you, but what you could do, reduce your caffeine a little bit. If you enjoy coffee, enjoy a coffee. Life is tough enough. Pick your battles. Enjoy a damn coffee. So enjoy your coffee. If you're having too much, just reduce it a bit. If it's more of the ritual, say you're at work, you're meeting people at noon and you're having a coffee, then instead of having the coffee, maybe substitute it with a tea or a peppermint tea or something which has no caffeine in. I'm just thinking of solutions off the top of my head here. But hopefully this video has given some insights. Hopefully this video has given some insights. I haven't even touched about the benefits of coffee. There are hundreds, from reducing the risk of Alzheimer's, reducing the risk of certain cancers. Maybe I'll do a part 2 to this. But today I just wanted to give you some positivity, give you a little boost with your coffee. If you are constantly hearing coffee is bad for you, coffee is unhealthy, it really isn't. Remember what I say, everyone tries to pick the pieces and then choose what they want to label as bad or good, but no one looks at the puzzle. Remember the Andre who I was talking about could have 5 cups of coffee today. Someone would say that is unhealthy. But if they didn't look at the rest of his lifestyle that he lives, then they're assuming that he is unhealthy without seeing the bigger picture. So that is what people do with coffee. They say coffee is bad without looking at the whole puzzle and then not offering solutions. Hopefully I gave you a few solutions today. Remember, one thing doesn't make something unhealthy, one thing doesn't make something good or bad. It's the cumulative effect of all the dietary choices that we make throughout our lifetime and not in a single sitting. So if the people who are saying coffee is bad for you, I say they're not seeing the big puzzle. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe. This is day 6, I believe, of posting on YouTube. It's going to be a long journey. Thanks, guys.